right. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3. Was that a pretty accurate Jewish primer, Nancy and Carrie?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, I tell people I had the only Jewish mother who would say, don't eat so much.
And the
Spent my
guilt.
entire
And
life
the
on a
Jewish
diet, people.
Right.
And the Jewish guilt.
And the complaining for sure.
Oh,
Yes.
crushing, no question.
Because that's right. Such
And by the way, Kvel means to burst with pride.
Ah, there it is.
That was one of my favorite scenes of this whole season.
She looks so teeny in that card. Clearly the Paladinos like Natalie Wood.
And remember, blanking, Alex Borstein played Miss Celine, Gilmore Girls.
That's right. Hashtag it all comes back to Gilmore.
Boy, it's a trip.
I feel like there was enough space for him to park beside it, but
I love the cars in that show. So vintage. But they weren't vintage then, of course.
there must be cigarette ash in everything she does.
And the TV on all day, authentic. That is authentic New York Jewish mother.
I love that they still have Zelda. It's still loud even in their room. The plastic on the sofa.
Also a very authentic cut.
Those screw-in fuses are really old, but I have them in my apartment, which is kind of insane.
Oh, I used to have them in my apartment as well.
Oof, the first time I blew a fuse was a real adventure.
Another classic scene.
I really like their chemistry.
Yeah, these two are cute. she's so interesting because she's just such a mystery.
And her little entourage, like when she's
Yeah,
supposed to
that's
be
fun.
like she's supposed to be in med school, like so it's just interesting. She
Yeah.
has this little entourage and seems to have her fingers in a lot of pies. Maybe they hid all their stashes of money at 4:30 in the dark, and that's why they don't remember where it is.
Did I miss something with those bears? What's going on with those bears?
It's her weird ass.
That was her
Weird,
weird
weird
ass in
ass.
her contract.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right.
I like how in every scene they're placed differently.
$1,000
They're just getting more and more.
Midge's outfit feels different today. Like it feels like she's evolving a bit.
Yikes. This is not gonna go well with Midge, Joel, now that Malin is in there.
I love her apartment now. It's just so great.
She's got a
Good tune. Another good tune.
So this was a prediction that I had, that's coming to fruition way prematurely.
Scottish play.
Does that Carrie Yules or however you say his last name?
Carrie Elwes.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's how my thing. By the way, I'm still superstitious about saying that the name of that play in a
Oh, yeah, no, it's the Scottish play. That's what you're supposed to call it, or just some other synonym.
it is true.
The dogs. The dog's just watching her.
They're like Cyrus.
Back in the old days where slots actually threw out coins instead of a digital slip that tells you you're winning.
Wasn't that like the funnest thing ever to watch all that stuff just pour out of there? Instead of a stupid ticket that says, okay, you won. I would just want all the coins to pour out.
When I was in Vegas, I got to use a slot that still spit out coins. It was
That sign looked like CGI.
Oh, boy. There's a lot of little liquor bottles on that fence, I think.
I love Kill Me O'Clock.
I don't know. I always have a hard time buying the these sort of I got so drunk that I can't remember something as big as that.
I know,
feel
I
like
have
you
a
always
hard
do that.
time with that too.
You always see it in movies and TV, and it never ever seems real.
Shortest divorce ever.
But I also just feel like this is just a predictable plot line to take it.
Yeah, I agree.
I love this shot with her on the teddy bear. Elbow.
Oh wow, that's very CGI.
I'm shocked we're already seeing her in this dress again.
Chris, is this is this type of music on the soundtrack? All of the stuff that plays in the credits?
Were you asking me that? I'm sorry, it cut out again.
Yeah.
You know, I only have season 1 and 2 that I was listening to yesterday, and I don't know if they're all credit songs, or if they have all the credit songs in there or not. They just have a lot of the music that they played
But
throughout.
is it like music from in the show?
In the show, yeah.
Oh, so it's not like a lot of the you didn't really hear any of the modern music that they're playing at the end.
I don't know. I was listening while I was working. I can take a picture of the back and I'll send it to you. Just see.
Because I would love if they had a compilation of all that modern music that they play in the credits.
There might be a Spotify. I haven't looked.
You
There
can.
might
Oh,
be.
I'm sure
Yeah,
there's a spot.
stream
Yeah,
them.
I'm sure there's a
Right.
Spotify.
Yeah.
You're right.
They actually are. The soundtracks are streamable on Prime Music, Apple Music. I don't know if they're on Spotify or not, but I've been streaming them for years on Apple in the past. But I didn't get for the LP. I didn't get season 3 because I haven't found it yet. It was a record store day drop, so it was probably more limited. So I haven't gotten that one yet. But I'll just snap a picture of the back of these and post them on Discord for you guys to see. Well, they do have, looks like mostly standards. So they do Cry Me a River. I don't know. I can't remember which ones are credit tracks and which ones are in the middle of the shelves, to be honest, I wasn't fully paying attention. I was just listening to them. So, did you predict that they were going to get remarried? Is that what you were saying? Your prediction coming true too early?
Oh no, I had that prediction that we were gonna see Joel sort of. There was this image that I had of Joel sitting down, listening to her set, really, as a friend, having this deep respect for her and laughing at the jokes, and I kind of imagined that would kind of take a while for his character to be able to get there, and it seems that it's gotten there. Well, it seemed that it gotten there much quicker, but before all of the other problems that happened later in the episode for them. But up until then, it felt like just good friends that were hanging out, and he totally is super proud of her and loves her path, her journey.
And it's so interesting, the contrast to the morning after, when they realized that they got married and it was all tension. There was no happiness, no like laughing it off even, but it was all seriousness, and it just highlights how complex their relationship is, and how much I believe both of them, but for sure Joel has such mixed feelings about where they are in their couplehood.
Yeah, he almost feels a bit tormented, and he's torn. I think he's still very much drawn to her, but I think he's excited about, what he potentially has going with, is it May? Is that her name?
Yeah, May.
Yeah. And I think he's confused.
Something that I found kind of, I just thought about is this thing that the Paladinos do, where they have a character that's name is very similar to the title name, right? So I always thought that it was interesting that they named Sebastian Bach's character Gil on Gilmore Girls, and Maylin kind of has a little bit of a Maisel sound to it.
Yeah, it does.
It's
definitely. And wasn't there somebody else on Gilmore Girls that also had a kind of a Gilmore name that was sort of felt like it was a little bit of a nod to the Gilmore name? Maybe I'm not. Maybe not. Definitely Gil. I always thought about that.
Well, I think it's a point. There's something pointed about it. You could name somebody a million different names, but to have May's name be May is sort of kind of putting her into the plot, or putting her into the story in a way that sort of it's like a signpost, you know, like this is a significant character, and this is somebody to watch.
Yeah.
I was really
What did
impressed.
we?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say something that really struck me, and this is the case in a lot of the show, but there's something about the brightness of of Moisha and Shirley's kitchen and the Eden kitchen, that scene, and then the mutedness of the bedroom was such an amazing comparison, because it was really saying, like, you know, the Maisels are loud and brash and rah, 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 and the Weismans are so much more subdued and muted and quiet and calm, and just the difference, the stark contrast of colors. They do this a lot at the show, but I just thought that was kind of cool in the way that they did it, with the contrast of the two couples as well.
I think they even did that in what they're wearing in this episode too. Because Shirley, she's wearing bright colors. But Abe and I lost her name.
Yeah, Rose.
And Rose.
They're in not pastels,
subdued
but
colors.
just, yes, exactly. Like
Yeah, yeah. I found the piece about the money interesting in this episode, because we see them so excited about the paycheck, and I think that Midge is being smart, saying, no, don't give me the money, because if I have it, I'm gonna spend it. But then we see that oh my God, how have I lost her name? Susie, geez, sorry. We see that Susie seems to be getting a real liking to gambling, and I don't know, that's making me kind of nervous.
Oh yes, definitely. I got a little nervous there. Yeah, that there could be some real problems with with Susie gambling away their money. It feels like it's definitely a setup for that.
Mhm,
You know what
mhm.
how it plays out. I think it's a pretty good prediction to say that that Susie's is going to gamble away their money. At least something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, because you can predict that it's going to get to the point where she's down, and so she knows she needs to go into Midge's money, and she'll rationalize that she'll spend it, but she'll get it back. And I predict that might go horribly wrong.
I saw her gambling as like a metaphor for how her career is going. You know, like she took a really big gamble on representing Sophie, and then, you know, sort of hedging her bets, meeting with those producers, like lying about, you know, being Katharine Hepburn, and then actually winning the whole time. So like, and then she meets the actor, and like that works out, and like it just, everything seems to be going Susie's way. So, you know, why not play it at the craps table as well? I kind of feel like that was like the metaphor, was that Susie keeps taking these risks, and they finally for her are sort of working out. Even her apartment, she lets Jackie rent it or sublet it, and it's like beautiful. Like he's made a lot of great improvements. Like everything seems to be like coming up Susie. So, you know, of course, when that happens, we can predict that maybe there's a fall coming because she's on such a high. But like I kind of more saw it as like Susie's finally relaxing because she is sort of winning and doing making the right moves.
That's interesting, but I guess I just worry because we, you know, the rule is the house always wins.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that we can have both of those things. I really think that I agree with all of that metaphor, and I definitely think that, you know, we're gonna there's gonna be a crash for Susie, but I setting up that she's really into gambling seems to track a little bit, and I get a sense that it's gonna come back, that she's gonna be playing a lot there in Vegas, and I have a feeling that will be part of the fall. Maybe not a big part of it, but definitely some part of it, even if it's just just a little joke they make out of it. But I do think that that it would be it would just make sense.
Well,
And sorry, I just realized I didn't say if anybody else wants to come up to the couch, obviously feel free to put up your hand and come up and chat. Sorry, I interrupted.
oh no, that's okay. I was just gonna say they're leaving Vegas. She even said to Midge before she went on stage, it's time to get out of Vegas. Like it's time, and that's like what you do, right? When you're up, you leave. So who knows where they'll go next, and what challenges will present themselves at the next place where there's lots of clubs and probably some gambling, but I don't know. I saw it more as like you know what? Last night, like you have a good time, you leave when you're up, and I don't know. That's kind of where I am.
What's everybody's thoughts on the shotgun wedding? I just, like I said, I mentioned during the episode, I just feel like it is just
It's such an
overdone cliche for
trope.
Vegas, and I just feel like it's so predictable.
Yeah, it's such an overdone trope. I that one, yeah, and also just I never buy that like the oh my gosh, did we like it just I don't know. I mean, I get that some people really truly do completely black out when they get drunk. I don't, so I've just never understood that. I've just never understood that. But two people, that's the part that makes it a little hard for me, where I'm like,
Well,
really,
he did remember. He brought it up. I had a friend who used to black out when she drank too much, and she didn't learn much from it in her 20s. She did it for a long time, and they really do. People who do have that happen, if they drink too much, they really don't remember anything. Like anything could have happened to them, and they have no idea. Like she called me up the next day. She's like, "How did I get home last night?" I'm like, "I drove you home." So she just would be like, "Well, what did we do before that?" I mean, she would actually have to ask.
Yeah, no, I know people. I know people do, but it just always seems a little unbelievable, that particular trope of we got married in Vegas. Both of us don't realize it when we first wake up.
Yeah,
or
and where's the
remember it.
marriage certificate?
Just there's something about it that just feels very, very overdone, very cliche for sure.
Yeah,
Well, it
and
seems like they
I
would
don't
have had
know.
a marriage certificate laying around there as well. And I don't know, I have a hard time believing that they really would allow people that were that drunk to really truly get married, but.
Yeah,
maybe
I
they
don't know. I don't know if they do actually.
I don't
that
think
might be a
legally
little
they're allowed to.
I don't
but,
think that they
I
do.
mean,
Yeah, I think that's
who
a
knows
movie
if
thing.
it actually happens.
I know they have, I have friends who've got like fake married in Vegas. You can also have fake Vegas weddings.
Oh, right.
I mean, I've seen that. A friend had been dating this guy for a few months in Vegas. She posted this picture. We all, but it was like, no, calm down.
Who knows, Sean? You might have like a new revenue stream when you move to Vegas. Somebody might want like a Brian themed Vegas wedding.
Oh my goodness, you're giving
I
me
love
some
it.
ideas.
I think that'd be awesome.
I would, yeah, I will renew my
another
vows.
friend who got married in Vegas, streamed the wedding online. A Tom Jones impersonator was the officiant, but then of course at the very end, Elvis came in and sang "Viva Las Vegas" because it would be official without Elvis. But it was literally, they drove in a pink Cadillac. Tom Jones officiated. Elvis came in. They all got in the car and drove out.
My cousin got married at what's the Venetian, right? With gondolas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
my
Venetian,
mo-
the
my-
Venetian, the Venetian on the strip. That's
Yeah.
the one with the little gondolas that
Yeah.
has like the little canals through the mall.
Right, right. My mother officiated.
Oh my
my mother-
goodness, on a gondola?
No, they got my cousin and his wife got in the gondola right after. It was probably part of the package, but my mother was the one who went online and just that one. It was the one that everybody uses to get ordained, Universal Life or something, and so she was able to officiate. But I agree that they probably wouldn't have let them get married. But I don't know if there was as much awareness, maybe. And also they looked kind of just ebullient. So they might not have looked like falling down drunk when they went to get married.
Yeah. Yeah, they that's also sort of what I mean. They didn't really look blackout drunk, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what blackout drunk is, I guess, because I just don't understand that. But yeah, it was fine. It was just it was a little predictable and a bit of an overused trope. I guess I'm just really so into this Joel Maylin thing that I mean, it's definitely creating some conflict, but
They're great together. I love that little
But-
scene where they're dancing. To the
oh my
music.
gosh, that scene was awesome. And that little what she said when she's like, oh, the same old thing. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, girl gets 12-inch blade, cuts off boy's finger.
She's got to be a crime buff. He said, "Thank you, uncle." She says, "What uncle?"
Yeah, no,
What's
she
going on
said,
there?
oh yeah, what uncle?
She
right?
said, "Who?"
Oh no, she said who? Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
who, yeah.
Oh man.
It's just
No,
kinda-
she is an awesome character. The actress is just crushing it. And so this sort of was a diversion from that. I kind of was like, oh, I just want a little bit more of that. I want to know more about Maylin. I want to know what's going on there. I just didn't
Yeah,
really.
she's so mysterious and dynamic. And
Yeah.
I like even wondered, like, is she actually a med student, right? Or is that just like a
I don't
cover
think she
story
is.
for her like underground criminal work that she does?
I like
It's,
how Joel though was like concerned because he feels like he's in some kind of new relationship with her, and so he was upset that they got married, even though he was dumb enough to do it if they did do that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it
did
was good.
like that he wasn't just like back in the midge. He was like, oh, but I've kind of got this thing going on, and this is not good.
Totally.
we're
And also, what thing? I mean, like all they've done is dance together, which I
They
just
had
think
dinner.
that they had dinner.
Yeah, they had dinner.
Well, they had dinner, kind of. I mean,
The feet.
she sat down at his table and started eating. You know,
But he
I
feels
just think
like
that
it's a thing. That's what I.
that's
like
what
about it.
that exactly. That's what I was getting at. Is that like he feels it, even though they haven't really. Yeah, sit down. Yeah.
Oh,
He feels it. I think that's really important. And there's just something really cool about that. You know, that he's just that he's already like they haven't really done anything that would suggest that they're in a relationship. But he really likes her, and yeah.
I think something Mitch said, maybe I misinterpreted it, but something Mitch said when he mentioned May to Mitch in the bedroom, in the hotel room scene after they woke up, she said, "Oh, she's the first person you thought of," or something like that. And I thought that was sort of like Midge realizing that this is significant, that this is not just, a fly-by-night thing. Or maybe she was commenting that, well, she can't possibly be that important if we got married.
And
But-
we also slept together. I mean,
Right.
I got the sense that they slept together, right?
Mhm.
Or no?
No, I think you're right.
I think that's what we're supposed to assume
yeah.
because they seem to fall back into that pretty easily.
I think one of them said it out loud.
Yeah, I want to see he said it.
Yeah.
One of them definitely said it.
But that's what I mean about the conflict. It's like I guess right after all these in season, I guess it was season 2, where it was the women all standing around and waiting for car fare and, hoping that one of them would be the girl of the evening. And that's not what is happening now. And I guess, Mitch, this is the first time that there's been somebody since Penny that she can see he feels serious about her, serious enough that all of this wedding or marriage thing is something to be taken really serious, or something that he takes really seriously, because he really has those feelings for May.
How are we feeling about Shy? How are we feeling about Shy and Midge? That was I thought there was something a little interesting there at the race when he asked her if she had anybody. Then what did he say? He said, we'll just file that one away. Is that what he said?
I don't remember.
He said something like, he said, she said, right now, no one. And he said, oh, well, okay. Well, I think he said,
I
file
don't
that
think
one
that
away.
was Shy or Missy was kind of dark. I think that was one of the other musicians in the band.
No,
Yeah,
that was
she
fine.
had a group. Yeah,
No, it was
she-
Shy. No, they were talking.
okay.
They were talking at the car at the back of the. He was like leaning against the back, and he's like, "So, Midge Maisel, is there somebody and then she kind of like makes a little quip, and then she sort of gets a little grounded, and she's like, right now, nobody. And then he says something, and I can't remember, but it sounded a little bit like it's. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. He says something that kind of sounded like, we'll just file that away.
Now, are you saying that because you feel like there's something there? Or
Yeah, that there might be some chemistry that they're playing around with, that the writing might be playing around with.
I personally don't feel a romantic chemistry between them. I mean, if you do, then that's your opinion. I personally don't see it. I see it more as a friendship colleague.
It was just
You're
that
right,
one
and
little
I'm
moment.
gonna
It was
file
just
it
that one
away.
little moment where when characters are asking those
I
types of
think I
questions.
remember thinking the same thing.
John.
John.
Usually when that happens, it's like, are you dating somebody right now? You know what I mean? Like that's just, how can that not be just somehow, how can, I just think it's natural that at least one of the two people might be thinking, even if she's not thinking, what was he wanting to know my relationship status for a reason. By the way, Joel brings it up, right? He brings it up in the hotel room. He accuses that. Doesn't he?
Right.
So at least I feel like the writing is at least trying to let us know something. Might not necessarily be that there is a potential relationship there, but the writing is definitely placing some things that suggest that we should at least consider it as a possibility. Maybe not as a possibility that they will be in a relationship, but that it might add to some of the conflict within the story.
Yeah, and you're right. I just went back and watched. He did say that he would file that away. So
Yeah, what does
and
that
then was
mean?
the end of
I'll
the conversation.
file that away. Like that usually means I'll keep that information, for later.
Yeah, because he specifically asked, "Do you have anybody who would look at me funny for talking to you, besides your crazy uncle?" Is what
No,
he
he's a
asked her.
Racist,
Right.
racist uncle.
Your racist
Racist uncle.
uncle.
And then
she said,
and then she said no, and then so it is. I never really thought much about that little
yeah.
conversation.
Then she says
because I don't.
she kind of like makes a joke back, but then she like gets serious and says, right now, nobody. And then he kind of smiles and says, well, I'll file that one away. which I just think is it's just an interesting little moment that just shows that at the very least, this is something that we should consider as potential conflict in some way.
Well, and we don't even really get to see her reaction because then they immediately cut to Susie and the other two guys trying to get her to get in the car and race. So it's
Yeah, and
I
also,
never-
just in
I never
writing
thought
that
of those two
there's
together.
also something to be said for you have these two characters, Midge and Joel, who kind of started the story out. They're now separated. They're dealing with what their own future is together as people, friends, whatnot. They're now in two different places, and they're coming they're like entering a new world, right? His world is this like club and whatnot, and hers is this whole like touring scene. And in that world of the club, he's got this new character who has some degree of authority within that world that he is developing a relationship with, like not like love relationship, but developing an actual relationship. She's got this really strong, confident personality, and that seems to be what's happening on Midge's side as well. She's also developing this relationship, certainly friendship style relationship, with this character who seems to have authority over that whole new world that she's in. Just from a writing perspective, it seems like you would be kind of mirroring these two worlds, or that you might that might be an interesting dynamic to play with.
yes, but I hope they don't go there. I like the character Shy, but I never thought of Shy and Midge as getting together just because they're on the road together.
I think Shy has a girlfriend who is on the tour, right?
Is she? I don't know. He's
I
always
mean,
he's
is
always
that
got
his
like a
girlfriend?
few.
Yeah,
that's
he always
who-
seems to have a few girls on his arm. So I
Yeah.
never really got a sense that he's settled down with anybody.
I know that.
But I think that's who Midge referenced.
Yes, right.
It was a comment about where is she, and he was like, and she made a joke like, oh, did she have to go to sleep because she's too tired from looking at you, like from
Yeah.
gazing at you all
Oh.
day?
Oh, that was
Well,
supposed to be his actual
yeah.
girlfriend.
Well, which by the way is that's certainly a flirtatious comment.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it wouldn't stop them, but just on the surface, in an initial conversation like that would be the first thing that you might have to encounter.
And by the way, I mean, I'm not suggesting that I think that they're a good couple right now. They certainly don't have the charm as a potential couple that Maylin and Joel have. But that's not to say that they couldn't. It's just not where it is right now based on what we've seen. And I've just there's a few little things that I'm noticing. I mean, that like I said, that comment alone seems a bit flirtatious. Both of them seem a bit flirtatious, and their conversation there at the car felt a bit flirtatious. But of course, he is a very flirtatious guy. The way that he speaks, he has a little lilt to his and that smile that feels a bit flirtatious. And I mean, it's not. I don't think that it's anything to go too deep on, but it's just some little bits that I noticed.
But isn't he naturally like that with most people?
Yeah,
That's kind of,
that's what I meant. That he's a
that's a facade he
generally
needs to
flirtatious
give
guy.
off all the time. He wants all women to be in love with them, right? Because it sells him more records and gets him more deals.
Totally.
And he wants to be that potential love interest for every woman.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of what I was getting. He's sort of got that natural flirtatious energy. That's part of who he is, and it's definitely part of his business. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't say that this was my favorite episode, but it was definitely like maybe my second favorite episode. No, I really loved it. I really loved this episode. What's up?
The whole series, or just
Of the, well, I mean, I'm kind of joking now, but I really like the episode. You know, in general, it's really hard for me to pick an episode that I really love the most. I just love all of it. It's just all one big episode that I'm just loving so much, and I'm definitely going to be watching this again before season 5. There's no question about it.
I'm gonna go back through the recordings,
Season
John,
5 or
and
season 4?
document every episode you said was your favorite. And I'm gonna
Do it.
I'm gonna
How
make
many
you
have I
lock
said?
in an
How many-
order.
How many
Do a
have I
cut
said
of
is my
him
second
saying
favorite?
that for every single episode.
How
I
many
don't
were my
know.
second favorite? This is the only one.
I think so.
this is your favorite one.
You said that about the one, I think it's the one you said, I guess this isn't my favorite.
If it's
the
not my
decision you
favorite,
have to make after every.
yeah, if it's not my favorite, if I'm like, this one just wasn't really my favorite, then you can be sure it's my second favorite.
It's a 20-way
But
tie.
John,
Like I said, I get a document every one that's your favorite and your second favorite.
John, you should
And
really
then
watch
the
Force
third
Force.
classification will be not your favorite.
John, you said
Then send it to you and you'll have to put them in order.
John, you said you're gonna rewatch before season 5 or season 4. We haven't even gotten to
No, season 4. No, I want to watch it all again before season 5. Meaning we're gonna watch all of this, including all of season 4, and then I'm gonna definitely rewatch everything back from season 1 all the way through the end of season 4. I'm gonna definitely watch that again before season 5 comes out.
Are you gonna do a fireside chat maybe about?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I
That'd
also
be
need
great.
also, you know, come the end of this month, when mementos have to be crafted after or before an event, I'm gonna have to get a bunch of Maisel events scheduled that I host in order to drop all those hats. I've got like 20 more hats or 25 more hats that I've gotta drop. So yeah, fireside chats. You know, I'll see if I can't get somebody from the show to come in and sit down with me and we could chat about their episode or something. I'm definitely going to watch the show again. Not necessarily for that, just because, I mean, I just love this world. I just love living in this, like, in this world. It's certainly one of my favorite story worlds that I can think of. Certainly my favorites, at least as far as I can remember, certainly my favorite non-speculative story world. It's
Putting it up against Rick and Morty.
well, Rick and Morty is speculative.
No, I know. I'm teasing.
Yeah.
There's so many
Rick-
similarities between the two shows.
Right.
I think you need to watch some Rick and Morty Curry.
No, I know.
I'm kidding, but
It's all.
Oh, I'm gonna do Rick and Morty.
All
Don't you worry,
facetious.
Curry. You're gonna be my co-host for a bunch of my Rick and Morty episodes.
I'm so there, and then George will be behind me saying, "But look at that part! Look at that part!" So yes,
Yeah, I just love this. I just love this story world, and it's interesting because, you know, like I said, you know, unlike a show like Gilmore Girls, which I think has such a rewatchability to it because its world just, you know, you could kind of jump in anywhere and just sort of just live in Stars Hollow a bit. This one doesn't have that quality about it because it's just so much more serialized. But I just love this era so much, and I really love New York City, and you know, it's funny because, you know, I was saying that I really love it when they're in New York City. I don't love it when they leave New York City. Like, I wasn't as crazy about the Catskills. I definitely did not like the Paris stuff, you know, but I kind of like this Vegas stuff. Like, I actually wouldn't mind if they stay in Vegas for a while longer, which is funny because I've been, you know, kind of a little like just the fact that that we're moving to Vegas is just like I've just been thinking a lot about Vegas lately, and I think that these episodes have actually gotten me more hip on the idea of moving to Vegas.
Well, obviously we planned it that way, so.
Yes.
You guys are
You know,
awesome.
art imitating life, right?
I think part of the reason these episodes are much better, well, I think the Paris is just so out of place, but I think the Catskills episodes could have been, like, they actually could have been totally about stand-up, because, you know, either Midge somehow performing, which I know was like sort of out of character for her in that setting because she's a guest, but like we could have like seen a lot of stand up at the resort, because it feels like there would have been a lot of stand-ups coming through, because that's just like what would have happened anyway. So like I just feel like it was a missed opportunity for, you know, just like more stand-up in a place where stand-up was actually like quite a popular thing, and that just like didn't happen. So I feel like the Catskills stuff doesn't, like, it, I love it, but it also like doesn't live up to its potential. Whereas like here with the Vegas stuff, like they're there for her shows, and so it feels like a little bit like, oh, this makes sense because of course she's there in Vegas opening for a big act. Like that feels like it tracks, like it would track in her career, you know. So I don't know, I feel like the Catskill stuff could have just been done better, and then maybe we would like it more.
I think, you know, I mean, I think that there's lots to love about the Catskills episodes, and I think that like any folks who are like, oh, I love the Catskill episodes, I totally get it. For me, it's just mostly like that kind of forested resort world is just not really a favorite of mine. Like I was saying, like, you know, just kind of reminds me of it. Like I don't know why, but it just felt so itchy. Like those all three episodes, I just felt like I wanted to be itching myself constantly. You know, I don't know.
I think that one thing I think the Catskills episodes was a different side of the family, and the thing that I value the most about that was how close Midge and Rose were, and how you know, and then you've noticed how similar they I don't know, that some of the hairdressing, the salon scenes and stuff like that. But I think in terms of the Paris episode, I think that both of those locations are could be, you know, construed as ways to sort of illustrate different sides of the characters. For example, we wouldn't know anything more about Rose. Rose spent season 1 mostly wringing her hands, and so when she was in Paris, it showed this amazing, competent, you know, dynamic person that we didn't know anything about. Cultured, I mean, we knew she was cultured, but all talented, you know, and we didn't really know that about her until the Paris episode. And I'm not saying, I don't think guess the Catskills episode just really sort of showed the family, and sort of when Joel showed up, sort of what was being lost by their split. And it also let us introduce us to Benjamin. And I suppose that could have also been done on the Upper West Side, but it was more I think it was more interesting doing that in the Catskills.
But couldn't we make the argument that they did the Catskills so well and you felt so immersed in it that, John, you were actually itchy? Like they put you there in the Catskills.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I actually don't think the problem was anything, you know, in the writing. It was just like that particular world is not really a world that I you know, have.
It doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah, it's not one that I like want to visit and live in, you know, like they're yeah, for
Not
me,
even if
that's
you had a fancy bug hat.
a fancy bug hat
Or a plunger.
or
You
a
know,
plunger.
the hats that have like the mesh. It's like kind of like
No,
a zookeeper
no.
hat, but
No, no, I mean like the whole thought of like mosquitoes and bugs and all of that, you know, and just pine needles like kind of getting in your shoe and potentially, you know, brushing up against some poison ivy, like all of that is just no, I'm good. I'm totally good. I remember, I just remember that from my youth. I remember experiencing that in those settings and just being kind of like, I'm so uncomfortable. I want to go home.
your delicate
so-
fair skin.
So that's sort of how I felt a little bit about the Catskill episodes. I was like, I'm uncomfortable. I want to go home. But you know, but I thought they were really beautiful, and writing wise, I didn't really have any major problem with them. I thought there were a lot of really interesting things that came out of those episodes. I probably agree with you, Diana, that we could have gotten a little bit more stand up, but I do feel like the stand up thing in this show sometimes does get a little contrived. You know, we were joking a lot about how, you know, whenever there's like a microphone anywhere near Midge Maisel, like suddenly she'll do a set out of nowhere, which I think was starting to get a little goofy. But yeah, I think it's just that, you know, in general, worlds that I kind of gravitate to, I get a little bit more excited about. I get a little bit more excited about, you know, urban environments.
Indoor spaces.
Well, not indoor spaces necessarily, but I mean, I just really love New York and, you know, New York City. And I think for me, what it is that what really gets me excited about a fictional world is how much discovery, how much potential discovery is in the world, right? Like, so for me, a world is most exciting if I get this sense that there's so much to find there. You know, that's the reason why like fantasy worlds are so popular, because they just give you this sense that like there's so many different things and so many mysterious places that you can go. And that's sort of what a city, you know, like a place like New York City gives you. Like it automatically has this feeling of there's just so much here. There's so many like alleyways and different types of stores and whatnot. And a place like the Catskills is just so much of one thing. And so it doesn't really give you or give me this sense of discovery. It's the reason why I think that Gilmore Girls is so, one of the reasons why I think it's so beloved and so rewatchable is that they've come up with this fictional town that they've given so much variety to, so many different little nooks and crannies and variations to it. And so the town itself has this allure because of this sense that there's always something new there to discover, like all kinds of new interesting things. Now they've got a dance-a-thon, now that they've got this, and it seems like these are a part of the town, that they always happen, so there must be lots of things. That sense of discovery, I think, is so important to a fictional landscape, a fictional world where you place your story, if what you want is that stickiness that you get from you know, or that sort of fandom stickiness, that feeling that you want people to return to, that not necessarily the story, you want people to return to the world. And that's something that science fiction and fantasy just have inherently in them, because they're, you know, worlds that are just completely different from the ones that we live in. So they all automatically have things that we just are super fascinated by and are surprised by. But in modern fiction, you know, you have to really create a world or place your story in a world that has that much variation, or put that much variation into the world, I think, for it to have that same kind of fandom stickiness that has you wanting to, like, you know, really revisit that world constantly.
I think that's why the Vegas location works so well, because Vegas has that same sort of multi-level. It's got a bit of danger to it. It's got known rules. I mean, Susie didn't know anything about I guess it wasn't this episode, but maybe it was last episode, where she didn't, she kept saying, what's that? What is it? Why are they doing that? What does that mean? Why are you standing down? Why are you hitting? You know, like, was it, it was last episode, right? Where she was learning how to play blackjack. Anyway, and I think also Las Vegas has, like, and you would know better than I, but just that, that all of those different, you know, all of the different games, and there's rules to all the games, and there's that it's a world unlike anything else, unlike any other.
Yeah, it's got different. It's got like all kinds of different strange little nooks and crannies that you can find weird, interesting things in them. It's you know, it's a world that doesn't look at all like the world that most of us come from. But it's not even just that. It's the fact that it's constantly surprising you. Like, you turn a corner and now it's something completely new. I mean, that's just so important to that, you know, that stickiness of certain types of fiction in getting you excited. And I think it's the reason why Vegas in general has been a really strong story location for a lot of fiction, because it has that, you know, like, ooh, we want to know, you know, we want to learn about this world that's nothing like the one that we're from.
And it's
there
also
seems to be so many rules, you know.
It's shorthand also for a certain mindset and a certain, you know, a certain character you think you might encounter. Even Susie said, I couldn't believe how meta this was, but when he said hands, she said, okay, you stupid, what'd she say? She said, you stupid cowboy hat wearing expositional character.
Oh, right.
That was
But like, but like, it's sort of shorthand for, I mean, there's, you know, this obviously took place before that amazing slogan, what happens here stays here, or whatever, that, you know, but it is sort of that like anything can happen, and this is a place where that is really true, and that it, and also that it's okay for something completely out of the ordinary to happen because we're in Vegas, and I think that that's another reason why it's such a good location for this show. And
that's definitely
also
the reason
for,
why I like it. Why I like it so much, despite early on saying I really don't like it when she leaves these destinations, because you're right. It is that. It's this like it's just this like constant sense that you are going to discover something new in that setting. That
or
I didn't
do
get
something new.
Yeah, and I didn't get that. I didn't get that in Paris either. I didn't, you know, even though it is technically it's a world that should come with all of that discovery. I just didn't really get much of a sense of it there.
Well, there's also like a very specific sense of like Vegas is a playground, you know, it's like Disney World. It's, you know, like for all the reasons Curry was saying, that like there's an expected, you know, like they don't have to do a ton to make you expect a particular kind of behavior from all of these characters in that place. So like even Susie getting into gambling, I'm like, well, of course she is. She's in a casino. Like, you know, like, so it's kind of like, I don't know, like there's a fun element of like, you know what to expect from everybody around, you know, in these scenes, because it's Vegas, and so that kind of sets it up to begin with to be a particular thing. But it's also a place where these characters might act out of character because of that as well. So it's kind of fun to see them in that sort of space. Whereas in Paris, it's just another city. I mean, you know, sure, it's you know, it's quite the destination and it's a European city, but like their dynamics wouldn't change all that much, or at least Midge's wouldn't. And whereas here, it's kind of a whole new ball game, because they're in this very special place on this very special mission, and like, you know, it's just kind of a playground atmosphere that's kind of exciting. Whereas, you know, in the Catskills, she was just on her family vacation. It was very normal for her. This is very out of the ordinary for her.
Yeah, but I still think that a big part of Paris, because I think that Paris is a really dynamic story world, as dynamic or more dynamic than New York City, if you've ever visited. I just think that it wasn't really presented all that dynamic as a story world, and therefore I never really got a huge sense of discovery and a sense that, like, you know, it was that I was being, you know, asked to explore this place with them.
They made it very
Um,
small, John. I feel
yeah,
like
they made it very
Paris feel
totally.
small.
Whereas Vegas feels quite big, you know, it feels really big and really dynamic, and it really does, you know, it does, like, you know, asks me to explore it a bit, you know, with my imagination. And I never really got that sense from the Paris episodes. Even though, and maybe this, you know, this is you know, a good reason, or a good sort of telling of how those were presented, but Vegas didn't need a montage sequence, you know, in order for me to get it, you know, to really feel the bigness, you know, whereas Paris had this like big montage sequence that like felt like we needed to sort of show you the scope of Paris, you know, through this montage. Whereas,
But it felt like everything was still done on one street.
yeah,
They were
right.
at
Well,
her apartment, a hotel,
but-
or a club.
but that's because the actual narrative didn't really take us through that world the way that the narrative is taking us through Vegas. I mean, even stuff like, you know, the check, you know, and her going down into that guy's office and her seeing them, like, you know, punching that guy who keeps swiveling
The drag
around
racing,
the
taking you
chair.
outside.
The
the
drag
strip.
race scene, you know, I mean, all of that stuff was just so dynamic, and it was just baked into the narrative. You know, imagine if instead all of those scenes weren't part of the narrative, but you had just seen them through a montage sequence. You know, it wouldn't have felt like Vegas wouldn't have felt big. It only feels big because it was so, like, everything was so woven through the story, and in that way, you are on this journey through Vegas, and you're being asked to sort of explore Vegas like they are, and I love that. That's why I could stay in Vegas. I'm kind of disappointed now that I didn't hear that they were leaving, but I'm disappointed at the thought that they're leaving.
It's similar, like even when they not that I want to necessarily talk about Gilmore Girls, but pointing out that they made Paris kind of feel small. They did that in Gilmore Girls too. It didn't really feel like a big thing there. They
Yeah.
were supposed to be there.
Right?
It was quite small there too. They spent almost all the time in one location, maybe two with the restaurant. And, you know, they showed us the Eiffel Tower and they made it feel like, oh, Lorelai's in Paris, but we really didn't see them exploring much other than
Yeah.
trying to find some food on a street. Another one that felt like it was all on one street to me.
Well,
And yeah,
yeah,
I'd never really thought about it before.
it's funny though, because in Gilmore Girls they didn't actually go there,
Right.
but in this show they did.
Yeah.
So, but you would
And it
expect
still
a
felt
little bit
small.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can sort of forgive it though, because I mean, they went to Paris, not like they had like all the money in the world to just like do a show in Paris. Is Emily in Paris shot in Paris?
Yes, it is.
It is.
And it
I
feels
haven't
bigger
watched the
than
show.
this
Is
one.
is Paris really dynamic in that show?
More so
May
than
we?
it was in
I
here.
would-
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She goes to different places. I mean, like she's literally living in Paris
Yeah,
and
yeah.
working in Paris and
Yeah, see, that was that. Like, I mean, I haven't watched the show, but like my gut tells me that I would just love Paris as a world in that show, where I didn't in this one.
yeah, and it's almost unfortunate that they didn't give it one more episode so they could show them kind of exploring the city more and bringing us more into it.
Nah,
Now that
get
now
them
that you
back.
say
Get them
that.
back to New York. Just
I just
get
mean,
them
if you're
back.
gonna go over there, make it worth the while. It's an interesting way to look at those episodes. I've never given it a whole lot of thought, other than that it was just Rose kind of protesting.
But
But
remember, the show is not about Rose and Abe or Rose. It's about Mitch.
Right,
So they
but
have
they
to get
do-
back to New York.
But they do use Rose and Abe a lot, and Rose is a big part of Mitch's life. I mean, she takes care of the kids, she helps her work out issues and problems, and when they do spend time together. So it's just, but Mitch was
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah,
Mitch could have
and
done more than
they-
just try to talk her mom into going home, is what I mean.
And Abe and Rose both often say things that you kind of see where Midge gets her sense of humor from and her comic timing.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna actually head out.